Almost live from the CX Therapy Studio, CX Therapy Season 4.
Good morning, Max. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you this evening? How is Paris? How's the City of Lights? And most importantly, how is Julien?
I think we've never been closer to Christmas, so
there you go.
A good time for me. Loving everything around, loving the atmosphere and the idea of buying gifts, even though deliveries are not my thing, so there is always that concern. But except that, that's a great season. At the end of the year, 2024 has not been a fantastic year, if I have to be honest here. So kind of looking forward to 2025. But super thrilled to see you, as usual. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm sorry to hear it's the year to turn the page on, but the page is going to turn. So we're there. We're ready. Yes, it has to.
So should we just jump into it? Because I have a question. Did you receive anything? Do you have something in the mailbag?
Oh, you mean mail? Well, why don't we check?
Now it's time to open this week's mailbag.
So I have the mailbag. That's half the battle, right? Let's see if there's...
All right, Santa, what do you have in the bag?
I got something. I got a letter, which is interesting because it was actually an email, but we, through the magic of pen and paper, we transcribed it manually. So those of you who are very on your CX therapy game, remember our last episode was with Sheila McGee-Smith. And she had a pretty cool story about how well a credit card company handled her losing her card and being able to still pay with the Apple Pay, on her phone, etc. It was pretty impressive, and it sparked a really. I couldn't resist doing this question, and it was very short. What about cash? And so. Credit is, I so rarely pay for anything with cash anymore. So I thought this was really interesting. Where do you think cash is going? Are we going to move away from it completely in a while, other than our favorite illegal activities?
Well, quite frankly, I think nowadays, at least for me, and probably in France in general, the only two reasons you may have cash. Reason number one is you're young enough and it's your birthday and your grand aunt is, giving you some notes. And reason number two is you need to do some renovation in the house, and VAT is kind of a killer. And if you want to reduce the bill, you may want to pay in cash. No one knows, and it's going to cost less. But beside these two scenarios, every time I get coins, I have that beautiful box at home where I toss all my coins. And once a year, I take the full box and I go to, I told you about this like 2 years ago in a different episode. You have that machine where you drop all the coins, you get a receipt. And with that receipt, you have the value of the coins, the entire value, not like you in the US where they take a cut. You get the entire value of your coins. You go to the store and you spend that with whatever barcode they have, which I think is brilliant. But I think we keep money because we need to have something physical that reminds us that we still live in a physical world. But I don't think people use it anymore.
It's rare here too. I was just in New York, and the cabs there, traditional cabs hate cash. But with Uber, it's always credit card, and it's become an issue for them. So now the cabbies just have to, because they don't get as much money when you pay through credit card, but they just have to suck it up because there's, that's just how people are going to pay. My son has a traditional laundromat, so he needs quarters to run the machine. It's rare anymore. I'll take out some cash and used to be I'd go through it in a week, and now it can be a month that I haven't touched it.
Yeah, no, I think the last time I went to an ATM, you know what? I can't remember the last time I went to an ATM.
Wow.
That was probably in the US because I needed some cash for whatever reason because my credit card was not working.
Yeah. You guys are definitely ahead of us in not using cash. I think there's still more places where you use it here. There's the occasional, the other thing here is the credit card fees are such that you do run into the occasional store that only wants cash, or a restaurant.
And that's the thing. That's what we were touching on with Sheila the other day. This credit card concept that you have in the US is kind of really foreign to me because we do have credit cards and debit cards, but we don't pay interest on either. We have clear limits, right? I cannot spend $1 million with my credit card. I can probably spend 5,000 euros a month or something like this. And based on how good you are with the bank, you might be able to increase that limit. But I'm paying 0% interest on that. But the whole concept of credit card in the US is that's a credit. You're actually paying extra interest on this. That's not really something we do over here. Not so something that's allowed easily, though.
So you just, at the end of the month when you get the bill, you pay that in full? Yeah, and that's how our credit cards work here, unless you leave money, and then you get the 15-20% interest payment on it.
Okay, but your bank would just block your credit card if you were not paying at the end of the month. They would not just ask you to pay interest. They would actually take your payment.
Yeah, if you didn't pay at all, but you can pay like $50. If you have a $2,000 credit, you could pay $50, and that would meet their minimum payment requirement. And then they would charge you interest on the rest.
Gosh, you need an accountant to go to the grocery store in the US. That's the world. Look, we've been talking about the old world of notes and coins. What about we talk a little bit about new technologies now?
Oh, let's please.
I've done my homework, and I have a few numbers to share with you.
All right.
The first one, 58% of consumers say that they are concerned about chatbots answering their questions. That's from Forbes Advisor 2024. I think that was actually July, but I may be wrong. Anyway, that's this year, so it's very fresh data. And to give a little bit of context, they're also saying that over 75% of consumers are concerned about misinformation from AI. Are you surprised with that number?
No, I'm not surprised with it. I am not totally. It's an interesting question. I feel like we're getting to a point that the concern would be around generative, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting to the point where people are figuring out how to put the right guardrails on, how to get away from hallucinations, which is what this kind of misinformation is. But there's been so much noise about it, and that it's even more jailbreaking than misinformation. Some of it's misinformation, but somebody who got a chatbot to sell him a car for $1, and some things like that.
So that the end of 2023, I believe, Chevrolet story. That's a U.S. story, yes. And then we got the DPD one in Europe, and we had Air Canada. Well, in Canada. So there are some of these stories giving bad image to Gen AI, but I think it's more than this. I mean, just chatbots in general, even not powered with Gen AI, don't always understand your question or give you the answer you're looking for. So I even feel
you got to get into, is it worth a darn? No, that's horrible. I was, when I heard concern, I saw that other, I thought we were talking about, they were concerned because the answer might not be right, but usability doesn't know the answer to my question at all. That's that. My stat, I'll throw back at your stats. Actually, I have two. 67% of companies have deployed a chatbot or are on the cusp of deploying it. 16% of people use it on any kind of regular basis. That's how much we love our chatbots.
Well, you talked about Gen AI, so let me throw another one out there. And we gotta be familiar with this one. That's a scary one. 82% of execs believe that Gen AI models are good at looking up and validating facts. And to give a little bit of context here, 80% of those people who are saying that Gen AI models are good at looking up and validating facts also said that they've already been given a formal training on how to use AI at work. And guess where that data is coming from? It's the latest report from Forrester.
Yeah. Okay. I believe that. So the other data point I use all the time is we did a survey of people who were buyers of generative AI. So they, self-proclaimed, we're not vetting that, but if you said I'm not a buyer, if I'm not at all involved in the buying process for generative AI, you were not allowed to do the survey. 70% of those people said if you give generative AI the same prompt, it will give you the same answer every time, which is just as wrong as wrong. And these are the people deciding what to buy.
And that I've read that stat as well, but it's so hard to believe. I mean, anyone who's played with ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or any of those things would know that that's not how it works. So it's a scary number.
Yeah, It actually was reassuring to me when I saw that, because I went through and people were saying that like over 50% of their chatbots were using generative AI. I'm like, no, it just, a lot of things that made no sense. And then I found that, I'm like, oh, okay.
At least
I have no idea what they're talking about. That's what's going on.
The most frustrating thing for me is that when I read that, I have to say, damn, those people on LinkedIn who keep saying 99% of people don't use ChatGPT right are actually right, and that's frustrating.
Yeah.
Leading to my last stat for today, 69% of organizations believe Gen AI can help humanize digital interaction. And my follow-up question on that is, it's going to make it more human in the way that it's going to be more difficult to realize you're talking to a bot. But does it mean that it's going to be better? And I'm not too sure it is.
This is my penance since 1990s when I worked on IVRs. The technology can do a wonderful, incredible job. How it gets deployed is going to be the answer to that. I do think it's going to get better because it's so much easier to program these things, and it is so much, the conversations aren't as brittle and aren't as forced. So I do think it's going to make a difference. We'll see. I wish I had more faith.
What about we just invite someone to give his opinion?
It would be great. We just happen to have somebody who recently had a bad chatbot experience that wanted to talk about it.
It's not a very narrow way to define who we're inviting, because somebody who had a bad experience with a chatbot could really be anybody right now. But
well, that's true.
I think it's
fair enough.
Time to invite our guest.
And now, please welcome this week's guest, a true CX expert.
I'm here.
Wow.
I'm here.
So
good morning.
I'm so happy I get to introduce Darryl today. I was thinking about it last night, and I met you two in pretty much the same way, which is very interesting. Both of you worked at companies that were acquired by RingCentral when I worked at RingCentral, and we both had, did the marketing of, okay, let's teach the company about this. Now let's start teaching the market about this and what it means. And it just, for me, the pleasure of working with each of you was so wonderful that it's evolved into really lovely friendships through the years. And having the three of us together, this is just like the warmest party day for me ever in the history of ever.
Same.
So
same.
And you really want to do this with chatbots. This is where we go.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I think unfortunately we all share being nerdy enough that we don't mind that.
No. I mean, look, it's funny because, statistically since we're on stats, and I won't give an actual stat, I'll generalize, but, we are lonelier more now than ever, right? I think you can just go and Google or use ChatGPT to give you a very accurate summary on, kind of this loneliness place that we're in. And so I think it's interesting that we're talking about chatbots and generative, and here we are face to face having a conversation as friends. And I think that's where we have to be aware of how we interact with the world, and we have to push against it in as many points as possible. Because yes, I do want more efficient interactions with brands. Well, give me that. Give me some time back there. But I should be reinvesting it in things like this, right? Human relational type of interactions. And so I think that if we can have a better desire in terms of what we do with all this time that we get back, maybe we can accelerate adoption a little bit quicker than we're seeing right now.
That.
I don't know.
I like that. I like that a lot. The chilling one, Julien recently showed me. He wrote a book, and he took the book and he fed it into a Google Notes application and said, "Give me a podcast," and it gave him a very good podcast with really slick voices and really hit a lot of really good points. It's just like, oh no! So,
talk about AI making us out of job, right? We've just been replaced. This is scary.
It was pretty spooky. At least it wasn't a physical visual avatar, but that's not that far away either, as far as that goes. So, I promised you we're going to ask some very hard-biting questions to kind of help people get to know you. And I know you well enough to know I can ask you a different sort of question than I would ask anybody else. And first one, I think with anybody else would be trite, but I think you would actually have an interesting answer to this. What's motivating you these days? Why do you get up? And anybody else would just say, blah, 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 but you just are so thoughtful about things like that. I think you might have an interesting answer to that.
Yeah, look, I think the thing that really, it's funny, I got asked this question earlier this week somehow. I didn't ask me anything with my company, and it was one of those moments where it was just like, all right, no prep. The entire company can bring whatever question they want, and I'm going to do my best to answer it. And that was one of the questions. Look, I am just on the pursuit to be my most intentional and authentic self. And I know it's like, oh, what a hoity-toity boulder answer to have. But I genuinely mean that. I am on this pursuit of true self-mastery and owning my own space and contribution to the world. And I try to do that at my best every single day for the things that I'm responsible for as a husband, as a father, as a leader, and as a friend. Usually in those orders. The first two are non-negotiable. But, I think leader and friend, as I think, Max, it takes me a long time to respond to messages at times. But I think that's the thing that motivates me is, I grew up as a counter-normative type person, very neurodivergent. And I want to show to the world that through mastering your seemingly or the labels that society will put on you, if you can own those, you can have a very fruitful life. But it really starts with your intrinsic motivation. And I'm just trying to be the best example of that every single day and understand the responsibility of it. So yeah, I think that's a long answer to what gets me out of bed every day.
That was perfect. That was exactly the sort of answer I expected and much more. I just find you singularly purpose-driven and thoughtful about things compared to most people I know. You are now the CEO of Aspect, which just the fact that it's called Aspect is kind of fun and interesting.
Aspect is back. Aspect is back.
I've never done this. Well, yeah, I have done this before. But talk a little bit about what's your 2-minute? Here's where we are. Here's what we're doing. Here's what I'm excited about with that.
Okay, I'm going to be very honest with you here because I think that's what's been the key to our relationship between this weird love triangle that we have going on, this friendship triangle. Because I admire both of you so much. I think
a love triangle with a French person is a dangerous path.
As it was coming out of my mouth, I was like, I shouldn't be saying this. I shouldn't be saying this. I'm going to go ahead and double down because I believe in escalating investment. This love triangle that I have found myself in, I'm going to be very, very honest. Look, I think we were not in a place of health, Alvaria, as a company, in terms of sustaining growth in a meaningful way, because we had lost our core competency. We kind of forgot we were a technology company. And I think a lot of organizations over time, especially in mature organizations, you can lose your way a little bit. I mean, Jim Collins talks about this a lot, right? Like the peril of decline. And luckily, we weren't fully declining, but, right as that, roller coaster starts hitting that level and you're like, tick, 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 right before that, we were able to correct it. And we were able to correct it because we understood that there was an identity mismatch between our organization at the time. We became very, very reliant on sales-led growth and sales-led strategies. And if I could, highlight where we are and the corner that we're turning is returning to a product company, right? Like beyond talking about the technology and what we do and what we're trying to solve, from a first principles point of view, it's making that shift back to being a disruptor in the space by overly investing and having a disproportionate amount of focus in the way that we build products, right? Like, everyone should be a product leader. Everyone should be an engineering centric thinking as it relates to the value that we bring to current customers as well as the market as a whole. That's the shift that we're making. I'm avoiding doing an aspect pitch right now, so I'll just talk about the first principles.
You guys are building a yellow submarine.
Yeah. Hey, are we already? Is it the last question already? You gotta tell them.
We're gonna get into the story.
Okay.
What is telling you that? No, I actually happen to have a question for the both of you. Before, obviously, we've invited you because we want you to share your story. But before doing that, I've got a little quiz for the two of you.
Let's do it.
What are consumers' biggest frustrations online? That is coming from a recent 2024 survey. I'm pretty sure that's mostly US based, but you're both in the US, so that should not be an issue. What do you believe are the top frustrations for consumers nowadays when it comes to online shopping?
Is this fill in the blank or is it multiple choice?
No, there's going to be, we're going to have the ranking of the top most frustrating things for customers. And I'm wondering, in your mind, because you might be experts, but you happen to be consumers as well. What are your top 3 pet peeves when it comes to online?
Top 3. Okay.
Number 1 is I can't do what I want to do. I can't find the product I want. I can't. Number 2 is the sort of thing you talked about, Julien, that ended up in the book, that ended up in the podcast, which is there's a lot of information, but none of it's the information I want. I just have a very specific thing I want to know. Can I put a car seat in this car? I forget what the exact thing was you wanted. And I can find out the size of the engine and all kinds of things I don't care about, but just I guess this is kind of the same problem. I'm just going to have one. But just, I can find lots of information, but it's so hard to get the information I want and need unless I happen to have a very generic question.
Okay, I think number 1, it's just become so transactional. I like the concept of going to the bodega and having a 30-minute conversation before buying a thing. There's something special about that. Yeah, I think that is my number one biggest frustration, is it's because it's all there and it's so accessible and it is so easy, right? I know that there is some friction to it, Max, but if you wanted to find it, we could find it, like the effort is not exponential in terms of trying to acquire the information. It's just a little bit uncomfortable or not as fast as we expect it to be because we happen to be technologists. We have a high tolerance, a low tolerance for poor processes, I guess. But yeah, I hate how transactional and faceless and just kind of like everything is the same, kind of, in my opinion. Like, it's hard to differentiate and have a connection with a brand just digitally right now. You want to hear my 2 and 3, or do you have a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, Julien, go ask the question. I wrote down my other answers.
I just felt you guys are incredibly inspirational, but so far none of your answers are even in the top 5. So,
oh my gosh! Okay. All right. Wow. Okay. So my other. Oh, go ahead, Max. Go ahead.
This is a very important thing to say. I went to Bodega Bay, and there were no little shops.
Yeah, because they're all mine now. They're all on Etsy. Etsy.
Yeah, it's a joke that I love that it never lands. It's Bodega Bay. There's no bodegas in Bodega Bay. And if I say there's no bodegas, the joke is just stupid. So anyway, I even with a perfect tee up, that joke doesn't work.
No, I took it too literal. Okay, I want to get one of them wrong. So I'm going to I want to get one of them right. So I'm going to break what I wrote down and try to think what people would say from here in America. And I would say frustration reviews are fake reviews or paid for reviews.
I don't even
not one of them.
In the top 10.
Oh my gosh. All right, well, then I'm just going to give my
way more down to earth. You guys are going way too far.
Okay, I'm really interested in my shopping cart. My shopping cart doesn't save.
Oh.
You know what? That's one of my top issues, but I don't even think that's in the top 10 either. Look at what we've got here. Number one,
advertising.
Which I'm actually quite surprised, because even though I agree with all the ad stops we have nowadays, I almost don't have pop-ups anymore. So I'm surprised it's still a thing. Re-entering personal information, that's a gigantic pain. Password resets.
Yeah.
I was fighting with this afternoon, so I can relate. Complex cookies options. If you are Europe-based, or actually probably the same thing in California now with the Californian rules.
Yeah.
Gosh, with the GDPR, that's a pain. And chatbots. Number 5 is chatbots, and I must say I'm not too surprised. And you guys, again, super inspirational, but yeah, not quite.
Way off the point.
You're not close to the rest of the world, apparently.
We're out of touch. We're out of touch. Oh, well, hold on. I want to go back to your guys' opening conversation. I'm breaking your patterns here, but that's okay. I'm going to do it. This is who I am. I want to go back to your cash conversation.
Yeah.
And back to out of touch. That was a prompt for me. Guys, the lower the socioeconomic status that you are in, or class, the more cash that you handle. And I think that's a part of something that, we should be all aware of, is it's like, if we're not handling as much cash, maybe we should pay attention to, the responsibility that we have at our class. And so, yeah,
the other day we were having a chat with Sheila, and I was telling her that how long has it been now? 15 years ago, I lived in China. And at the time, we already had beggars in the street that were not accepting cash. They had QR codes that you can send them money via WeChat. So that might be a US thing, but that's not a global thing. I believe.
WeChat. Oh my goodness. WeChat? Exactly. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. No, I'm not. Seriously. You have that QR code. You can transfer money. I would have tons of stories on that topic. But today, what I really want to do, Darryl, is to listen to your story.
Gather around, folks. It's time for Guest CX Story.
Was that not a smooth transition?
Dude, I was actually thinking during the transition, Julian's a great podcast host, because he's like, I got to get control of this wild guest and these topics that are so tangential. Love it. Love it. That's your superpower. That's your superpower.
The stage is yours. What happened to you?
It was with a chatbot, mind you. It was with a chatbot. So I was teed up perfectly for it. Max,
Exactly.
We're not paying attention. We're not reading the room, Max. We're not reading the room. Jokes aren't landing. Julian's like, this love triangle is not working. All right, story time. So I ordered a product, and I'm going to try to be as general as possible. But I ordered a product from Europe, and they used a last mile delivery service here in North America, and I think it's actually pretty regionalized. Here in North America, they use a last mile delivery service, post international handling. And so I get the notification that the package has arrived, the last mile delivery, and they needed to verify some information from me. Okay, great. I can do that. They send me to this form. I verify the information, send that form off, silent for 2 weeks. And I got busy. Life kind of went on, and I was like, oh, where's that package? And so I went back and I was like, looked at the emailed support, and they said, we no longer can help you. You have to go directly to work with the last mile delivery company. Because the first email came from the vendor that was shipping it. And so I reach out to the last mile delivery company, and they said, oh yeah, we can help you. We just need you to verify some information. I said, okay, but did that information not make it to you yet from the other company? And they said, oh no, it did, but we wanted to re-verify it with you directly before we were able to ship it out to you. I said, okay, great. Let's re-verify it. And so this is all over email at this point. And so I re-verified it. Now, this is where it converts over to the chatbot. And I took some screenshots because I think it's fantastic. And I'm not going to share them, but I'm just going to read from some of the screenshots, because after I sent the email back and re-verified, didn't hear anything again. And so I was like, I'm going to go try to find a number so I can just call and talk to someone, right? I just want to call and talk to someone. It'll take 5 minutes. I want to get it sorted out. This email thing, async, it's not working. All right. So I go to their website, search. Guess what? There's no number, right? Digital only. So I launch the chatbot, and it asks me the same question that it asked me over email. We need to verify information from you. And so I'm going to go into this now. All right. I was waiting on the package that's supposed to be delivered last week. I am more than happy to assist you. Could you please give me a moment to review your case details and tracking? And I said, okie dokie. Could you please confirm the information below for this package? So they clearly received the information, and it has my name, my phone number, my email address, the address that it's shipping to, the suite, the zip code, the city, and then it even has the dash, the full zip code, right? Like the dash 0182 on it as well. So it's like all of the information. And I go, that is correct. So that's clearly with the bot. I say that is correct. Nothing happens for 10 minutes. And then out of nowhere, hi, my name is Deja from blank web chat. How may I assist you today?
All right.
And I said, my response was, I thought I was already talking to somebody. Because now I'm just being a jerk about all of it.
Right. As you deserve to at this point.
And so Deja goes on to say, "Oh, that was the chatbot. It wasn't a real person. That whole thing." And she goes, "I'm going to assist you with this issue." She asks me again, "Could you confirm the information for this package?" And it's the information that I already confirmed that I just said it is correct in the exact same thread. Okay.
So did you cut and paste it from the thing they sent you and send it to her?
Because it was what she said. I said that's correct again.
Okay.
I'm on a call. I'm on a call right now. And so that's not even the thing that I want to talk about. The thing that I want to talk about, all the frustrating things with the chatbot and then it getting handed off and the emails above, right? Like, clearly something's happening with their ticketing system or whatever system they're using where, my customer identity is in 4 different systems or 2. Like, I understand what's probably happening on the back end. What I was most frustrated with is this next point. This is chat, mind you, okay? And I'm on a call while this is happening, right? The holy grail of being able to use digital tools and chatbots is by being able to do multiple things simultaneously, right? On my terms. I'm on a call and I ignore the screen for a little bit because I'm like, I gotta focus on this call. I'm recording a podcast. I'm recording CX therapy. I come back. My session has been ended because due to inactivity.
Oh. So I know what the first thing they're going to ask you when you get back on.
Is that correct?
Okay, so let's go to the next thread. And it starts all over.
Oh.
And then this starts all over again. And I'm doing my thing. And I'm like, okay, going back and forth. And then literally I have it timestamped just so we can be in the moment here. At 7:50 a.m., I started the interaction again. At 7:54, I got this message. I apologize. Due to inactivity, the chat will be disconnected at this time. You can contact us with further questions at blank.com. Thank you for contacting us. Have a great day. You know what I did? I canceled the package. I called the vendor. I said, I don't want it anymore. You guys figure it out with your last mile delivery, which that's not their fault. They chose a last mile delivery company. And because this company under invested in their strategy, their engagement strategy, like what a simple thing to expand the inactivity guidelines. Because if it's supposed to be asynchronous and digital and these chatbots on my terms, why isn't it on my terms? What a simple thing to do. Oh, that was so frustrating. So frustrating.
Can we agree to disagree here?
Oh, boy. All right.
So you just said...
I don't know.
It's not the vendor's fault.
Oh,
I would
okay.
disagree with that. Because you have not selected the last mile delivery company. The vendor or someone in the process has selected it. You trusted the vendor. You invested your money with that vendor. And when the problem arises, the vendor say, oh, not my problem anymore. I've shipped it. You figure it out with whatever last mile delivery company. I tend to disagree. That's very much their problem because they are responsible for you are their customer. You're not the last mile delivery company.
That is a really good, you know what? I will agree with your disagreement. And maybe I am upset more with this company than I am the last mile delivery.
I understand. I mean, a European company, any company anywhere in the world, if you deliver in other countries, you can't be familiar with every last mile delivery company in every country in the world, and shit can happen. But that should be their responsibility to say, oh, you have a problem, we will contact the delivery company and fix it for you, because that's what we do, because we are responsible for the delivery as much as we're responsible for the product itself. So I find it quite easy for companies to say, not my problem, I've received the money, I've shipped it, now you figure it out. That should not be the way it works.
Because it probably would have been easier for them to figure it out because they probably have a direct support line or something like that than me trying to go deal with that's a good challenge.
I do see if this was a really small vendor and they don't sell much into the US, maybe they wouldn't have any better relationship than you do coming in out of the cold. But even then, to Julian's point, this is their problem. This is. And the bottom line is they didn't take responsibility, and they are the ones that get the penalty in the end. So I guess you don't have to feel guilty about them being the ones that are getting punished, because at least partially they do.
I did not hear any guilt in his voice. I don't think you need to worry about that.
I'm punished. I want to be the victim. Okay, I'm on CX therapy. I am the victim here. Okay, I am the victim, and and so guys, this went on for weeks, mind you, weeks.
Oh my God, so. Is there any the verification piece? At first, I was thinking, well, maybe there's a security piece to this, but they weren't asking you to give them information so they could say, okay, it's really you. They were just sending you stuff and you had to say, yes, this is correct, right? So there's not even like a security or validation excuse for that.
They just wanted to make sure that their drivers were delivering to that verified and accurate addresses. I guess. I don't know why they have this big problem with. I mean, I'm just trying to defend the company now.
Right. Which is.
But if that's the case, even that does not make sense. If that's the case, that could be the reason. But then they should proactively reach out to people to confirm. They should not wait for you to say, "Oh, I should have received the parcel by now. Let me try to figure out a way to engage with this company that apparently only does email and live chat." So even that is wrong. I also have a problem with, since you were reading from the screenshot, I'm assuming the information you shared is super accurate. And then you said that the chatbot was saying something like, give me a minute to review your case or whatever it was, which it looks like they design it to make you believe you're talking to a human, because a human would take a few minutes to read whatever it is, and machine doesn't need to. So if you are going to make me talk to a machine and make me believe it's a human, then you better be sure that it's going to be a good interaction. Otherwise, just let me know it's a chatbot so that I can be forgiving when it's, when it just do crap.
Well, and they named it. Like, I think that's a really, really good point, because I had multiple interactions with these chatbots over the few weeks. And each time it was the same prompt, and it was, "Hi, my name is Simone from blank web chat." And so, like, there was a variable name change from the chatbot. I'm sure every time the chatbot says hello, it's a different name, because every time it's a different name. And then you go in, and it's funny, because I'm sure most people don't have multiple interactions with a chatbot, so they're not going to catch it. But since we sit on the technology side, we know how these parameters are being developed. And so, it's like, "How may I assist you?" And then the response, I just love the response, right? Because it's like, you can tell someone's like, respond emotionally. But so was, "I've been waiting on a package for over 2 weeks. When is this package going to be delivered? What's going on?" Being an a-hole at this point when I'm talking to the bot. Because I know it's a bot. I know it's not a human. I know it's a bot. I know that I have to be an a-hole for a little bit, so then it gets transferred over to a human. And then the bot responds, "I can imagine how upsetting this situation has been.
And I'm not going to do anything."
A-hole. Yeah.
And then there's the next issue that you raised, which is zero handover. You are talking to a chatbot. So first, you are talking to an email. Then you move to a live chat. They know who you are, right? Because they give you your information, delivery date, and everything. So they know who you are. Yet they don't realize you sent an email and you had that conversation already. So no handover between channel. And even within the same channel, no handover between the chatbot and the human being, apparently, since she asked the exact same question. And no handover within the same channel between two different threads. You come back a few days later, they just ask you the same questions again, because they don't realize you had that conversation over email and over live chat with the chatbot and with it really feels like every single piece of conversation is a unique ticket, like we had 20 years ago. There's no link between the various tickets. That is, we probably should organize a session between Darryl and Christina Max. I feel like they could be on the team.
That would be fun. Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe there's a nostalgia thing here. Let's take technology back to the 90s, and we'll just, let you enjoy your youth. It seems about that. The thing that really riles me up is, if you're going to pretend it's a human, then don't just blithely have a human pop in and say, "Oh yeah, that was the bot." I mean, at least you should pretend to do a warm handoff, right? I mean, it
or disclose it's a bot at the beginning, right? Like, why give it a weird name?
At least you're right. It should have. It's so worst practice to just pretend. And unless you a couple of years from now, I might feel a little differently about it if there's a bot that's just so good that the delta between it and a person is so small that you could really say this is literally doing and experiencing the same everything a tier 1 agent does, then I could see starting to play that game. I still think it's evil to do that, but at that point it's defendable because the experience is the same. But clearly this was a Flatiron's height away from that, so there's just no way that
I want to say something controversial. I don't want my bot to be artificial intelligence, right? Like I don't want my bot to be like I just want it to be intelligent, you know, like I want it to work. I don't need it to be empathetic to me. I don't need it to mirror a human. I need it to be a really good bot. You know what I mean? Like I need it to deliver on the things that it should be delivering in terms of like a more efficient and effective experience. Why does it have to replicate a human? I know, like if you're disclosing that it's a bot, great. Disclose it a bot. Make it better than a human.
Yeah, you know, that's exactly why I was bringing this stat earlier on. 69% of organizations believe generative AI can help humanize digital interactions. I'm not sure that should be a purpose. It should be, the goal should be make it better, not necessarily more human. I mean, if it can be better and on top of this, it can display empathy in a way that you would actually believe it cares, why not? But that should not be the first focus here.
Here's how generative AI could have made that interaction more human. It could have made the human more human by saying, hey, Darryl just had one of the worst experiences with our company because of these interactions. His sentiment is very, very negative based off of the, excuse my language here, the asshole responses he's giving to the bot and the agents. Every single interaction with him has been closed due to inactivity. Like, where is the like basic common sense reasoning or emotional intelligence that we can't, like, we have all this conversational intelligence, but why aren't we using it so humans can deliver more empathy in those interactions and in those moments?
I'm going to jump on with my own stat. Because you are so phenomenally spot on. What I want from a bot is an answer to my question or a solution to my problem. And one of the things we did was we surveyed people and we said, if you want, which of these things do you want automation and which of these things do you want a human? Pay a bill, very simple. 75% of people are fine with a bot. The more straightforward it was, the more people are just totally fine with a bot. The more complex or the more fraught it becomes, then it shifts. Like if it was a financial advice, who would ever want financial advice from a bot? But still, that was like, 12% would do that. Solve a complex technical problem, very few would do that. So there's, and you're right. If I get a quick question and I want a quick answer, I don't want to make a friend with a bot. I just want to get my question answered. Just do that quick, efficient, right. If that leads to something more difficult, if the paying my bill comes up and suddenly I find out my bill's 3 times what it's supposed to be, now I need a person. And then if this goes at all right, that's when I'm going to need the empathy. And to your point, Darryl, that's where you feed the agent everything they need. So then, okay, Darryl's kind of angry and I see why, right? I mean, all that is not rocket science today. All the generative AI in the world isn't going to, but
here's why. And I'm probably going to get canceled for saying this, but I think that we've given a lot of executives keys to a very powerful vehicle without the appropriate information literacy and licensing ahead of it. And so it's like, I think that we as executives believe that we're helping improve a solution because technology service providers say, this is the end all be all. It's going to fix all, customer experience is going to go up and to the right, 500 points, and employee experience, but we don't know why or how. A lot of these executives don't know why or how. And again, I'm saying generalized statements. These are not all executives, but the executive that decided to choose this technology at this last mile company, I think had really good intentions, but misunderstood the application of the technology. And I think that there needs to be greater information literacy ahead of making buying decisions that's backed in a strategy that goes, what's wrong with current state? and how do we fix that in future state? And also understanding the maturity of the technologies that we are engaging in is something that we as leaders need to understand at a level that we don't right now. It's because right now bots are they're 2 years old, right?
Yes.
Unless they get trained in training is not easy, right? Training takes a lot of intentional work, but we think that like, oh, this out of the box bot is just going to fix all of my issues. I connected it to, my knowledge base and there I go, I'm done. And I think it's because like we can interact with generative AI and like it can do cool things from a chat GPT point of view, but no one understands what's actually behind the scenes in terms of what's happening in that model. So it's like we have this like inflated expectation of like, oh, as soon as I put this bot on my site, it's going to be the chat GPT for my company or my Gemini for my company. And that's just not the world we live in right now.
I think it's not even about the technology. I think you guys both made the same point, which is it's about how you deploy it. And the execs might be buying the next shiny object, but not know how to use it. There are two examples in your story. The first one I raised already, which is the chatbot pretending to be reading the conversation and therefore wasting a few seconds or minutes, which doesn't make sense because the power of a chatbot or of an Gen AI driven powered chatbot is it can give you the answer instantaneously. Why making me wait for a few seconds just to pretend it's human and actually defeat the entire purpose of having AI? The second thing is the reason why you need on a live chat to close the threads is because you can't have human beings working on 5 million threads at the same time. So after a certain period of inactivity, you have to shut it down. It's not true with a chatbot. You could actually keep it open much longer because your chatbot can work on millions of threads at the same time. So if you may have the right tech, but if you don't use it the right way, you're just wasting your resources and pissing your customers off for no bloody reason.
But so on that last point though, Julien, where, yes, agents, probably can handle, maybe 7 concurrent chat interactions at a time. If there is an activity, I do agree with the deployment and the utilization. And clearly I'm on this like inactivity thing because this is not the first time this has happened to me. Expiration due to inactivity. Why not just re-queue it and then have some sense of continuity and handoff when the next agent comes on? Like I'd be more than happy to go, hey, you've been replaced in a queue, but when you are ready to come back, all your information, you'll be able to pick up the conversation with the next agent. I'm fine with that.
There are so many ways. So that's probably the best way to fix it. But there are many other ways. You can ask for people to enter their email and then they can continue the thread via email. You can ask for a callback, or maybe with live chat, it would be complicated since they don't do phone, but that could be a callback to continue the conversation. You could have a link sent to your email so that you can relaunch the live chat and continue where you left things. There are a million ways to fix this, but just closing the thread, especially when you could avoid it because of a chatbot, doesn't seem to be the smartest way to do this. Just one last question from my side, because I realize we're way over time, but I have to ask. Without naming that company, last mile delivery company, because I would probably not even know it anyway. But is it a very traditional company that's trying to adopt new technologies, or is it a new age startup Uber-like that's supposed to be, a cool company using new tech and that apparently does not understand how it works?
It's an old company trying to adopt new technologies that also went through a rebrand and is doing that. They put lipstick on a pig, if you will. And I think that last mile was actually a pivot of their strategy as a whole. So, a part of, if you look at the history of this company, last mile was not a majority of their revenue historically. So I think this was a part of a business organizational pivot to modern times, I guess.
Okay. AI is not going to fix that. You probably have more fundamental issues to fix before just throwing AI at it and hoping for the best. Darryl, how do you feel about all this? Do you feel the therapy was actually useful? Do you feel any better?
I feel better, and I also am like, we're in an echo chamber, right? Like of course we know these things can be improved. How do we really amplify, CX therapy to make sure that the right organizational leaders are listening and then, taking application, because if I have one more, this session has been ended due to inactivity, because this is not the first and it's not the fifth time that this has happened. I'm just going to stop chatting because I want to chat on my own terms and I want to have a continuous conversation, not pick it up new every single time. And I don't know, I guess, no, I'm not feeling better at all because inactivity still exists right now. There is a problem right now. I'm very triggered.
Max, I think that the first time we've got this answer, do we need to reimburse him? How does it work?
In this conversation due to inactivity is what you need to do.
I did notice you're saying you're 9-ish months digitally sober, so I think you need to get sober. I don't know what that means. Is I guess you'd have to physically go to a branch of this shipping company to get your question handled. But yeah, I guess that's actually a sad point in all of this is there's only so digitally you can get, only so sober you can get digitally.
Right. Well, I'm trying really hard. I can't go to certain concerts because I don't have a smartphone, which is really funny. I bought a ticket to a concert. I don't have a smartphone. They wouldn't let me print it. That's the next CX therapy, I guess.
Well, and Max will be able to relate to that story because he also bought tickets for a concert that he could not find, could not print, and almost missed the. So you guys have way more in common than you would imagine.
It's the love triangle.
That's right.
A huge thank you, Darryl, for joining us today. Max, as usual, thank you for all your insight. Thank you for everyone watching it today. If you do happen to have questions, suggestions, comments, or other painful stories that you want to share with Darryl and the rest of us, please feel free to send us a message, whether it's by LinkedIn, Twitter. We do emails. We don't do live chat. I'm not planning on doing live chat, but whatever way you find, send us a message, and that will be in Max's mailbag, in the next session. Thank you, everyone, for watching. A big thank you, Max and Darryl, and I guess see you guys for another therapy session another time.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen. It was a blast.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It was a blast.